Hey guys, D Casanova here, and I kind of look like crap, and that's because I haven't actually been feeling well these last few days, so. But I've decided, you know what, I've probably put this off long enough, I should probably just get it done. Before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to my younger brother Aiden. He is almost an affiliate on Twitch. His Twitch username is Percy the Otter. I will have his Twitch linked down in the video description. Please go follow him, go check him out. I'm pretty sure he would appreciate it very much, as will I. But with that promotion out of the way, I was kind of hesitant to do a video on this, mainly because I think in the first attempt at making this whole tutorial thing, I felt like I did a fine job with demonstrating the process of this costume piece, that I didn't feel the need to go over it again, but the pattern is actually different than what I did in the first video, so I figured, you know what, screw it, I might as well. Today, I'm going to be going over, again, how to make a Spider-Man mask. Yep. So, yeah, before I ramble too much and lose my train of thought, why don't we dive into the materials that you will need. So for this build, you actually need quite a lot of materials. Obviously, you definitely need a pattern to go off of. And in order to make a pattern, you may need a mannequin head. If you want to learn how to make the mask pattern, I have a tutorial on that, which I will link in the description. A mannequin head is definitely essential, and you may also want a plastic bag to put over the mannequin, just to be on the safe side, because we are also going to be working with glue. And trust me, the plastic bag will come in handy to keep the styrofoam from sticking to the mask and pretty much ripping and tearing. And depending on what kind of glue you use, you can use either Gorilla Glue, or you could use some E6000, which is actually going to eat away and destroy some of the styrofoam on a mannequin head. So yeah, just a forewarning there. Obviously, you will need some red 4-way stretch spandex fabric. You will also need a splatter screen, or if you don't want to use a splatter screen, you could use some white translucent fabric. But if you are going to use a splatter screen, you may also need some white paint, and you may also need a brush tool of sorts. This is the one I have. For the actual lens frames, you may want some black foam. Or if you don't want to use that, you can use cardboard, you could use Peltex, you could probably recycle some old plastic, however you want to do it. And, well, you may also want a pencil and some paper as well. So you may also want some pins. You're definitely going to want to use scissors, one for paper and splatter screen, and the other for the fabric. And of course, because there is going to be some sewing involved, you're definitely going to want to use a sewing machine, or you can hand sew it if you so prefer. Yeah, I think I've gone over pretty much everything. So, with the materials all listed out, let's get started. Before I get to the actual fabric part, I think I'm going to take care of the actual lens part first. So I'm grabbing my white paint and I'm laying it on a scrap piece of cardboard that I had lying around, and I'm going to paint the splatter screen completely white. And the reason for that is, well, I'm basing my design off of the classic Spider-Man suit, and if you recall from the original comics, the eyes were in fact solid white. So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward, so why don't we just fast forward.
Once you finish painting the splatter screen, and while you wait for the splatter screen to dry, we can move on to the actual fabric part. So I'm laying out my red spandex, and then I grab my mask pattern and I lay it on the fabric. And you can probably guess it, you trace around the pattern and then you cut the pattern out. And the way I drew out my pattern, there's already some seam allowance, so you probably don't have to worry about it if you made your mask pattern the same way I did. If you haven't, then you should probably still put in some seam allowance, just to be on the safe side. Once you've cut your fabric to fit the pattern outline that you've just made, you are free to then pin the sides together. This includes the seams for the chin area, down the neck, as well as around from the middle of the forehead all the way down to the middle of the bottom of the back of your neck. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, I apologize for not explaining in a good way. So here you can see I have basically pinned every last seam of the mask together. And since you see my sewing machine here, you can pretty much guess what we do now. That's right, we sew the whole thing together. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You know, we've been over this whole process dozens of times. So why don't we just speed through the sewing process and I'll show you how I do the eyes and how to properly attach them onto the mask. With the sewing done and out of the way, we now get to the eyes. And of course, before we can actually get around to making the eyes, we have to design the desired eye look that we want. So with my pencil and this piece of scrap paper that I have, I'm going to start by drawing out an eye shape. And don't be discouraged if you don't get it perfect the first time. I mean, it does take a few tries. But don't be discouraged, okay? It takes a lot of trial and error and a lot of practice. But once you've reached your desired eye shape, you can then cut it out and, well, you could probably piece together, but stick around just in case you don't know. Alrighty, so here I bring in a piece of black craft foam, and I lay out the eye pattern design that I previously cut out. And here I'm going to trace around it and make sure that when you do this, you might want to make as good of an imprint as you can, or at least make your pencil outline like visible. That way you know where to cut, and when you do lift your pattern off, it won't be, you know, like hard to see. Basically, all I'm trying to say is you want to make sure that your outline is easy to see so you know where to cut. That's all I'm trying to say. But once you've outlined it, go ahead and cut it out. So, remember the splatter screen that we had done earlier? Well, now we're going to take our scissors, or maybe you may want to use a box knife or something even sharper, and we basically want to remove the actual splatter screen from the actual frame. And that's probably going to take a while or a lot of effort. With the actual screen removed from the frame, we then take the inner part of the actual eye frames, you know, that middle bit that we remove, and if you're smart enough to keep those around for a while, like I was, well, you basically want to trace a little bit around them, and when I say a little bit, make sure you give it some space so that it can actually stick to the actual eye frame when you glue it together. You'll see what I mean. And for this demonstration, I'm only going to cut 2 layers, but you can make it even thicker and do 3 or 4 layers. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to do 2 layers and that'll be it. Once you've cut out your desired number of lens layers, try saying that 5 times fast, you are then free to glue them onto the actual eye frames. Now for this, I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue, or at least the type of Gorilla Glue I have. And let me tell you, this is not the best either. You're probably going to want a different type of Gorilla Glue, or maybe this works just fine for you. You may want to test many different types of glues to see which ones work best, but for the love of God, don't use hot glue unless you are absolutely certain that it will work, and it has worked for you many times before and it hasn't failed on you ever since. Alrighty, now we get to gluing the lenses on. Now first, we grab our mannequin head and a plastic bag if you have it, and I am putting my plastic bag over the mannequin head, and that's just to protect the styrofoam from the glue that I'm going to be using to attach the lenses. So once you've put the plastic bag over the mannequin head, I grab the, well, lensless mask, and I put it onto the bag-covered mannequin head, and I try to make sure that the center of the face is even with the middle of the, well, face area of the mannequin head. Hopefully that makes sense. But once the mask is completely centered, or as centered as you can get it, we can then get to the actual gluing of the lenses. Also, before you get to actually gluing, you may want to place your eyes on the mask just to see where you want to actually place them and to double check to make sure that everything is nice and even. For gluing the lenses onto the actual mask, I'm going to be using E6000, and fair warning, I am not the best with gluing lenses onto a mask, and for this you may want to use a different type of glue, but I'm using E6000 because, well, it's easy for me to work with, and if you slop, well, it's easy to clean up with some Clorox wipes. Also, a small hint, you're probably going to want to be careful with how much glue you actually apply, because if you use too much E6000, you're probably going to make as big a mess as if you were going to use hot glue. One more hint about gluing lenses onto a mask. When you're pressing down on the actual lens and making sure that the glue adheres to the actual mask, you may want to hold it there for about 2 minutes, give or take, 4 minutes at the most. And of course, that applies to both sides. And when you take off the mask, if you see parts that haven't fully adhered, don't stress too much. It's probably a sign that you could use a few touch-ups, but as long as the crucial points, such as the front and the outside, adhere, you should be fine, if you get what I'm saying. Once the glue has cured, you can then take the mask off of the mannequin head and remove the bag from the mannequin head as well. And you can also turn the mask inside out and cut out some eye holes so that it's easier for you to see out of. And remember, if you do it right, nobody should be able to see your eyes through the splatter screen, but you'll still be able to see out because, well, it's going to be really close to your eye and the holes should be big enough for you to see through. Once you've done all that, the mask is pretty much done. And I think because this is the final component of my 6 or 7 piece suit, here's a clip of me trying on the whole suit all together. Yes, I have the whole thing pretty much sewn together. The main bodysuit, which is the shirt and pants, the boots, the gloves, and the mask. And here's just a little look around at the costume as it is. And at this point, yeah, there's no reason not to add the webbing and the spider symbols unless you're waiting for me to do a small tutorial on that. And honestly, what do you need my advice for on that? I mean, if it's your costume, you can do the webs and the spider logos however you want. I mean, you're the one doing this, so why not add some variation and make it your own? I mean, that's what I typically do.
So I think that is pretty much going to do it for the Spider-Man mask. If you found this helpful in any way, please let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. It is greatly appreciated. It won't cost you anything, but I will very much appreciate it. And while you're at it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get those notifications every time I upload or export from Twitch. I don't really upload a whole lot, so you're not going to be spammed with my notifications. But like I said, it won't cost you anything, but I will greatly appreciate it. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I've been your host, D. Casanova, making the Spider-Man mask, And I hope to catch all you true believers next time. Excelsior! I hope all of you have a great day. Afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this, I just hope you have a good one. That's all I'm trying to say. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you on the web. Bye-bye.